They say every story has a beginning. Mine started with a smile, but not mine. It was the perfect, photogenic smile of my wife, Tara Monroe, glowing from the screen of my phone. Above it, a caption that sliced through me with quiet cruelty. When you marry a man who thinks style means wearing the same shirt 3 days in a row faced with tears of joy nail polish. I was in the background of that video. Not posing, not smiling, just crouched down, cleaning the mud off my work boots after a 10-hour shift in the woodshop. My shirt was dusted with sawdust, my hair a mess, sweat dried into my skin. Tara, of course, looked flawless. Full makeup, filters sparkling, eyes teasing the camera. Soft pop music played behind her voice. The clip was edited with fast, polished transitions. It was peak Tara. At first, I didn't react. I was sitting on our worn-out couch, still wearing that same stained shirt, back aching, mind buzzing from the day. I told myself it was probably just a harmless joke. That's how she was, quick, playful, always looking for a punchline. I had supported her from the start. I told her I thought it was amazing that over 40,000 people followed her online, that brands wanted to work with her. I didn't always get the appeal, but I didn't need to. I just wanted her to know I was in her corner. But after that video, something shifted. The comments flooded in, not about her eyeliner or music choices, but about me. Girl, you won the scholarship. Crown. OMG. Same. Mine works all day and still thinks Carhartt is a fashion label. But he's got a good heart. You can tell by the way he scrubs those boots. Tara replied with laughing emojis and the one line that stung the most. Someone's got to balance aesthetics with stability, right? Face with tears of joy. Aesthetics. Stability. Like I was the dull weight holding down her glamorous balloon of a life. Like I existed just so she could shine brighter by contrast. I didn't say anything that night. Didn't ask her why. Didn't start a fight. I just closed the app, got up without a word, and walked out into the cool night air of our neighborhood in Springfield, Missouri. Tara didn't ask where I was going. She didn't text. I walked for an hour, maybe more, through quiet parks, past shuttered diners, along empty streets. My boots echoed off the sidewalks, each step pressing deeper into something I hadn't let myself feel before. A slow realization that maybe this wasn't just a bad joke. Maybe this was who we had become. The worst part? This wasn't the first time. It was just the first time the whole world laughed with her, at me. There had been other videos, other moments. Private slips turned into public amusement. Like the time she recorded me trying to pronounce entrepreneur and posted it with silly captions. Or the time she filmed me snoring with my mouth open and wrote, "How he welcomes me home every night, weary-faced ZZZ." She always brushed it off. It's content, babe. People love the real stuff. But was it real to only show my flaws? Was it love if real had to hurt? When I got home that night, she was in our bedroom, already changed into a sleek outfit, filming another video in front of the mirror. She didn't look up, didn't ask where I'd gone, just said, "Don't forget the perfume brand's coming by tomorrow morning for a collab shoot, okay? Try not to make any noise." I didn't sleep much. My mind churned while the ceiling stared back at me. I didn't cry, but the ache was loud, like a bruise you can't see but still winces every time you move. Something in me went quiet that night, and I didn't know it yet. But that video, it was the beginning of the end. 3 years earlier, I wouldn't have believed this would be my life. Back then, things were simpler, hard, but simpler. I'd only recently moved from Wichita Falls, Texas to Missouri. My cousin Wes had been nagging me for weeks to stop drowning in work and come out to a local community event hosted by his church in Springfield. I wasn't the social type, never had been. Especially not after starting over in a new state with no safety net, no family nearby, except Wes. I kept my head down, worked long hours at the woodshop, and sent what I could back to my mom. I didn't have time for parties or live music. But that day, Wes didn't take no for an answer. And that's the day I met her, Tara Monroe. She wore a mustard yellow dress that caught the evening sun just right. Her laugh rang out like wind chimes, bright and constant. She moved through the crowd like she belonged to everyone, chatting with old ladies, playing peekaboo with toddlers, hugging people like they were lifelong friends. Wes introduced us while we waited for tacos. "So you're the mysterious cousin Wes won't shut up about," she said with a smirk, tilting her head playfully. "Finally get to see what all the fuss is about." Her tone was teasing, not mocking. I chuckled nervously and replied, "That's me. The mysterious carpenter." We talked for 30 minutes straight. She asked about Wichita Falls, about what I missed from home, about woodworking, not like someone making polite conversation, but like she genuinely wanted to know. I couldn't remember the last time someone had looked at me like that, like I mattered. After that night, we started texting. Then came the voice messages. Then video calls. And before I knew it, we were seeing each other regularly. I never understood what someone like her saw in someone like me: quiet, practical, always thinking 3 steps ahead. But Tara had this way of making me feel seen, even celebrated. "I like your calm," she once told me. "You're the space where my mind finally stops spinning." Within 2 months, we were a couple. Tara worked part-time at a beauty store while growing her social media presence. I watched her film and edit on her phone, tweaking lighting, adjusting angles, talking to the camera like it was a friend. I didn't always get what she was doing, but I respected the hustle. She was loud. I was quiet. She jumped into things. I took my time. But somehow, we worked. In those early days, our lives intertwined like 2 mismatched puzzle pieces that found a fit. I'd make simple dinners after work. She'd explain trends and what engagement rate meant. I'd carry her lighting gear and hold the phone while she filmed. I didn't mind being behind the camera. It was her world, and I liked being part of it. People would ask what it was like being with someone so different. I'd say, "It's like living with fire, but the kind that warms you, not the kind that burns." And for a while, that was true. I just didn't realize when that warmth started turning to smoke. In the beginning, every day with Tara felt like a small adventure. She had a way of making even the most ordinary moments feel alive. She'd narrate our grocery runs like they were movie scenes, or blast music in the kitchen while we danced between chopping onions and stirring beans. For someone like me, used to silence, to predictability, to tools and schedules, it was like opening a window after years in a closed room. So, the first time she joked about me online, I didn't take it badly. She had snapped a picture of me dozing on the couch, mouth slightly open, a lopsided blanket thrown across my legs. She captioned it, "My favorite sloth barefaced ZZZ." I stumbled on it while scrolling later that night. I chuckled. It was harmless, I thought. Kind of sweet. That was her humor, light, spontaneous. If that made her audience smile, why not? But then came more posts. And they changed. One day, after we'd gotten back from Home Depot, she uploaded a video of me trying to park our old pickup. I was struggling with the tight space, readjusting again and again. She narrated over it with mock serious flair. Here we see the rare Missouri woodworker in his natural habitat, attempting to conquer the mighty steering wheel. Will he survive the curb? Stay tuned. I didn't laugh. That one stung a little. I asked her to take it down. She just grinned. "Come on, Clay. Don't be dramatic. It's just content. People love it." She didn't delete it. Another time, she made a TikTok using some trending audio. It showed me trying to walk her through an Excel formula. I was explaining patiently, a bit confused myself, and she clipped it just as I said, "I'm not sure if you're even listening," then added, "When your man tries to teach you but doesn't know what he's doing, either face with tears of joy." The comments poured in. Classic. Men explaining things they don't understand. "This is literally my boyfriend too." And she was there in the replies, laughing, adding heart emojis, loving every second. At first, I told myself it was just her style. Just jokes. But over time, something shifted in me. I stopped feeling like her partner. I started feeling like a character. Like I was cast in the role of clueless husband in the Betrayal show, except no one asked if I'd auditioned. One night, I finally brought it up, gently. "Tara, I know it's funny for you, and maybe for them, but sometimes it doesn't feel so great on my end. I don't always like being the joke." She sighed and crossed her arms. "You know how many couples do content together? It's what people want now. Real stuff. It's not like I'm making you look bad. You're being you." I swallowed hard. But is being me just showing where I mess up? She stood and disappeared into the bathroom without another word. That night, we didn't speak. And after that, I stopped trying to explain how I felt. I just got quieter. And it was that silence, more than any fight or flaw, that began to pull us apart. For a long time, I convinced myself those differences were balance. That her energy and my steadiness worked like 2 ends of a scale. That I was the anchor, and she was the wind. But the truth was, I was sinking, and she didn't notice. Turning 30 made me think more seriously about the future. Not in a lightning bolt revelation sort of way. It was gradual, conversations with friends starting families, quiet questions from my mom on the phone about settling down, watching my savings grow slowly but surely. I started imagining things, a small home outside the city, hand-built furniture, maybe a garden, maybe kids, 1 or 2. Her laughter filling the porch swing, me fixing things in the garage. So one afternoon, sitting outside a food truck by the shop, I asked her, "Have you ever thought about living a little further from the city? Somewhere quieter, more space, you know, something more long-term." She blinked at me and raised an eyebrow. "Away from downtown? And give up my coffee spots and photo ops? Are you kidding?" I laughed, trying to hide the sting. I tried to explain, lower rent, more peace, better place to grow something real. Every time I tried to go deeper, she cracked a joke, dodged the seriousness. Babe, if you ever move me to a place with bad Wi-Fi, just file for divorce immediately. She laughed, and I laughed too, but only on the outside. After that day, I started seeing things differently. I noticed how every moment seemed staged. Even our dinners got repeated takes if the lighting was wrong. When she talked about us, it was always about growth metrics and reach. When I talked about us, I meant stability. She wanted content. I wanted continuity. One night, as she edited another video, I asked quietly, "Have you ever thought of stepping away from social media? If everything else in life was good?" She turned slowly, her face unreadable. "Are you insane? This is what gives me life. What would I be without my community?" I said nothing, but deep down, I was thinking, what am I to you, then? Part of the audience? Or just part of the script? A week later, I got a job offer in Boise, Idaho. Better pay, shorter hours. A position that could actually give me a chance to start saving for a house, not a dream house, but a real one. Something solid, something mine. I brought it up that night after dinner. I was excited, nervous, hopeful. I thought maybe it could be a turning point for us. Tara didn't even blink. "Boise? Are you serious? I'd rather die than leave the West Coast. What would I even do there post-tree selfies?" She laughed, like I'd said something absurd. Like Boise was some backwards wasteland and I was crazy for thinking otherwise. That's when it hit me. She didn't see it as a new beginning. She saw it as a sacrifice, a step down, a loss. And she wasn't willing to lose anything, even for us. I didn't mention the offer again, didn't bring up marriage, or houses, or kids. I stopped talking about the future because I finally realized we weren't walking toward the same one. Tara wanted movement, spotlight, sparkle. I wanted roots, walls, warmth. And her version of a future had no room for someone like me unless I was holding the camera. I remember the exact moment that truth settled in my chest like cold cement. We were at the neighborhood Latin market on a Saturday. I was holding a bag of tortillas while she wandered off looking for the perfect, aesthetic, agua de Jamaica to feature in a casual taste test. Everything around me was normal, kids crying, carts rolling, music playing, but inside, I felt like a ghost in my own life. Then it happened. A young guy, probably in his 20s, walked up to Tara, wide-eyed. "Yo, you're Tara, right? My girlfriend follows you religiously." Tara beamed and struck a pose like it was second nature. They snapped a selfie. Then the guy turned to me, eyes lighting up. "Wait, are you the husband? The one from the Excel video? Dude, you're hilarious." He laughed like we were best friends. Tara burst out laughing too. "Yup, that's him, my exclusive model for awkward moments." Everyone laughed, except me. Right then, I realized something simple and painful. To them, I wasn't Clayton Harris. I wasn't a carpenter, or a man, or a husband. I was the joke, the walking punchline, the lovable idiot from her feed. That night, I sat on the balcony with a cheap beer and no words. The city buzzed below, but all I could hear was the video in my head playing on loop. Her laughing, the crowd laughing, me standing there like a prop. I remembered every time she mocked my accent, every time she filmed me in old clothes, every candid post that made me look small. I'd smiled through all of them, but inside, something chipped away, piece by piece. Why had I let it go on this long? Because I loved her. Because I was scared of losing her, of being alone, of starting over in a country that wasn't mine. I thought if I waited long enough, she'd notice. That maybe, just maybe, my quiet loyalty would mean something. But a week after that grocery store moment, she posted a reel that shattered the last pieces I was holding together. When he takes you out with his savings and you pretend to be excited for the third time this week, grinning face with sweat money with wings. It was footage of me opening the door to a tiny, family-run Mexican restaurant I'd found. I'd spent hours looking for the right place. The owner reminded me of home, and I was proud, really proud, to share it with her. I was smiling in that clip, genuinely happy. She rolled her eyes in the video and added a trending audio that said, "Another night of tacos, but make it love." The comments exploded. "The effort is cute though," face with tears of joy. "Girl, he means well. That's what counts, right?" Low-budget love is still love. That night, I went to bed early. Didn't speak. Didn't even try to. I wasn't sad. I wasn't angry. I was numb. Like something inside had finally stopped struggling. I stared at the ceiling, thinking, this wasn't a relationship. It was content. And I still loved her. That was the worst part. I loved her through all the sarcasm, all the filters, all the moments where I became a shadow so she could shine. I clung to the hope that maybe, just maybe, She'd see the way my hands always made dinner, the way I never let her carry her gear alone, the way I stayed, even when it hurt. But with every joke, every comment section turned roast session, that hope dimmed. It's like pulling a thread on an old sweater. You don't notice it at first, but one day you look down and there's nothing left to hold on to. I wanted to build a life. She wanted to build a following. Monday came like any other. Early morning light filtered through the blinds, cutting pale lines across our kitchen table. I brewed coffee the usual way and left Tara a note beside her smoothie blender. Good luck with the cosmetics shoot today. See. Then I headed to the shop. The sawdust, the scent of pine and lacquer, it grounded me. My hands moved on autopilot, sanding edges, measuring cuts, piecing together shelves. Out there, surrounded by wooden tools, I still felt like myself. No cameras, no punchlines. Just work, honest and real. I didn't check my phone all day. Not out of defiance, just habit. When I finally got home, the house was quiet. Tara wasn't there yet. I kicked off my boots, poured the last of the morning's coffee into a mug, and sat down. That's when I saw it. A new reel. 4 hours old. Her face was the cover, polished with her usual filters. The title hovered over her head like a slap across the face. Dating someone below your level builds character face with tears of joy sparkles. I froze. I tapped the video. Her voice filled the room. Sweet, sarcastic, too smooth to hurt until it was too late. She was narrating over clips of us. Me driving the pickup, me plating dinner, me walking beside her in sandals while she wore heels and a blazer. Zoom cuts. Laugh tracks. Subtitles. Not all heroes wear capes. Some wear paint-stained shirts. In the last frame, it was me, standing in the kitchen, back turned, in one of my oldest shirts. The one I wore when I built our bookshelf. The one she'd said made me look authentically hardworking. I didn't move. I just stared at the screen. The comment section was a parade of chuckles and digital applause. Girl, you're a 10 dating a 4 with a toolbox skull. This is love and social service at the same time faced with years of joy. You're Barbie. He's like Ken, but one who lives in the garage. And then, her own comment. Self-love starts with accepting your reality, grinning face with sweat. I didn't know whether to laugh or scream. Instead, I stood up, walked to the kitchen, turned off the lights, and sat in the dark. Not angry, just hollow. Like someone had scooped everything out of me and left the shell. Because this wasn't just a joke. It was public. It was cruel. And she didn't even see it. I thought about all the nights we'd spent laughing, all the quiet support I gave her behind the scenes. How I never once asked her to stop, even when it made me uncomfortable. How I convinced myself that love meant bending, even when you start to crack. Was it always fake? Or had something changed along the way? Maybe she had started out seeing me as her equal, her calm, her partner. But somewhere down the line, I became her prop. The before to her after, the rough to her polished. And maybe I let it happen. Maybe I was so afraid to lose her that I let her treat me like less. I thought about stepping outside, walking, clearing my head. But I didn't move. I just sat there, phone face down on the table, silence thick around me. When she got home around midnight, she smelled like perfume samples and studio lighting. Her hair was perfect. Her tone was breezy. The shoot was fire. Seriously, wait till you see the brand's page. Everyone's loving the new vibe. I nodded. She paused. You good? Just tired. She didn't ask more. She never really did. She disappeared into the bathroom while I stared at the ceiling, wondering if the roof had always looked so unfamiliar. The next morning, I woke up before the sun. I didn't make coffee. Didn't leave a note. Just sat at the table with empty hands and a quiet knowing. I didn't ask her to take the video down. Not because it didn't matter, but because I knew, if you have to ask someone to respect you, it's already too late. That day, I went to work like usual, but my mind wasn't on wood or nails. It was on suitcases, on doors, on leaving. After my shift, I drove to a second-hand shop on the edge of town and bought a suitcase. Not a big one, just enough for clothes, tools, and the pieces of my life I could carry. I brought it home and slid it under the bed. She didn't notice. She was editing. She always was. The suitcase wasn't a decision. It was a preparation. 3 days passed. We barely spoke. She floated from one project to the next. I stayed quiet, not out of spite, but out of clarity. And in that silence, I confirmed what I already suspected. She didn't notice the difference. Or worse, she did. And it didn't matter. On the third night, over a quiet dinner neither of us had cooked, just takeout on mismatched plates, Tara finally looked up from her phone and said, "Are you being distant? Or am I just imagining it?" I didn't answer right away. I set down my fork, looked at her for a few seconds, and said, "Just thinking a lot lately." She nodded and went back to scrolling. The glow from her screen reflected in her eyes. Notifications blinked. Hearts, laughs, tags. A world where she was seen by thousands, and I had started to disappear. That was the last night I spent in that apartment. The next morning, before the sun rose, I got up, showered quietly, and packed the suitcase I'd hidden. I moved slow, deliberate, folded shirts, tucked in work boots, gathered papers and tools. No note, no dramatic farewell, no confrontation. I just left, not out of anger, but because I knew if I stayed another hour, I might not have the strength to go. I walked down the street to the bus stop, suitcase rolling behind me, heart heavier than I expected. Not because I was uncertain, but because I still loved her, even after everything. And that, somehow, hurt more than hate ever could. I went to Tulsa, Oklahoma. No grand plan, just a place I knew. My old friend Rusty lived there, someone I hadn't seen in years but who'd always said, "You ever need a couch, Clay, you've got one." That morning, I knocked on his door. He opened it in pajama pants and a faded t-shirt, looked me up and down, and without asking a thing said, "Coffee's on. You're home." And just like that, I had a place to land. The first few days were weird, quiet, still. I slept on his couch, looked for odd jobs, ate whatever Rusty had in the fridge, which was mostly hot sauce and leftover chicken. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't curated, but it felt real. For the first time in years, I wasn't being watched. I wasn't the funny husband or the guy with the stains. I was just a man in a borrowed hoodie, trying to breathe again. I thought about calling Tara so many times. I drafted texts I never sent, rehearsed conversations I never had, thought about explaining everything, that I hadn't left out of spite, that I wasn't angry, that I just couldn't do it anymore. But every time I picked up my phone, I put it back down, because I finally understood. When someone makes you feel invisible, no explanation will make them see you. So I stayed silent. I deleted my social apps. Not out of protest, but peace. I didn't want to know what she was posting. Didn't want to read comments or see another video of myself out of context. I just wanted stillness. And in Tulsa, I started to find it. I walked a lot, sat at little diners and drank bad coffee. Took small carpentry jobs from Craigslist, replacing porch steps, fixing old cabinets, patching fences. Each nail I drove in, each board I sanded, it all felt like I was building myself back, one piece at a time. The first night, I slept alone in a quiet room with no lights blinking from a ring light, no distant tapping from her phone, no music synced to edited clips. I felt something strange. Relief, not joy, not freedom, but a quiet sigh from deep inside me, like something had finally unclenched. 3 weeks later, Rusty connected me with Mr. Harlan, an older gentleman who owned a small workshop on the edge of town. He built custom furniture, solid stuff, American maple, walnut, no shortcuts. He hired me on the spot after I showed him some photos of my work. "Don't care where you're from," he said. "You respect the wood, you're good with me." It became my sanctuary. The shop hummed with real work, chisels, planes, sawdust floating in the afternoon sun. My hands were calloused again, my clothes smelled like varnish, and at the end of the day, I was tired in the best kind of way. I still thought of Tara. Not in the way that makes you want to go back, but in the way you think of a storm after it's passed. You remember the thunder, the broken windows, the way the house shook, but you also remember what survived and what didn't. I didn't hate her, but I finally stopped excusing her. Nearly 3 months passed before her name came back into my life, uninvited, but not unexpected. It was a Tuesday afternoon. Rusty came home from work, tossed his keys on the counter, and walked over with his phone out. "Hey man, I think she's talking about you." He held up the screen. There she was, Tara. No makeup, no filters, just her, sitting on the edge of a bed I didn't recognize, eyes red, voice low. "Sometimes," she said to the camera, "you don't realize what you had until it's gone. And sometimes, the best people leave quietly." There was no name, no dramatic monologue, just a soft, confessional-style video. She paused often, like she was choosing each word with care. She didn't cry, but her voice cracked near the end. I think, when someone stands by you through everything, you stop noticing the weight they carry just by staying. And if you're not careful, one day, they stop. The comments were flooded with hearts and sympathy. "You're so brave for being honest. Hope you two find your way back. He sounds like a good man. Hope he knows it." I didn't comment. I didn't even finish the video. I handed Rusty the phone and said, "Thanks," then walked out to the porch. The breeze was cooler now. Autumn was rolling in. I sat in the creaky lawn chair with a mug of reheated coffee and stared at the sunset stretching over Tulsa's low skyline. I felt nothing. Not anger. Not hope. Just calm. Later that night, curiosity got the best of me. I opened her profile, something I hadn't done since I left. Many of the old videos were gone. The ones that hurt most? Deleted. The post about dating down. Vanished. Even the paint-stained shirt, joke, had disappeared. It was like she had tried to scrub me out, or maybe scrub the guilt away. For a moment, something flickered in me. A small, fragile thing. Was it regret? Forgiveness? A second chance? I closed the app, because I realized something right then. Deleting isn't the same as healing. And silence, mine, wasn't revenge. It was protection. I didn't need her apology. I needed peace. And for the first time in years, I had it. My days in the workshop were steady. Mr. Harlan didn't ask about my past. He just taught me new joinery techniques and made terrible puns about wood grain. We built bookcases, desks, even a couple of crib frames. Real things for real people. Each project brought a strange satisfaction, not just in the craft, but in the idea that something I made would be part of someone's quiet, ordinary life. No hashtags. No edits. Just use. At night, I read. I went on long walks by the river. I stopped flinching when my phone buzzed, because fewer people reached out now, and the ones who did asked how I was, not what I could provide. I thought I'd feel lonely, but I didn't. There's something oddly sacred about learning how to enjoy your own company again. Making a meal without needing it to be shared online. Laughing at a show and not checking if anyone else finds it funny. Just being. And slowly, I started remembering who I was before the stage lights of her world blurred everything. I remembered how I used to hum when I worked. How I'd talk to my tools like they were old friends. How I'd sit with a cup of coffee and watch the morning crawl in, not needing anything else but the quiet. I remembered loving simply. Without angles. Without an audience. People often ask me now if I'd ever go back. If I'd ever give it another shot. The truth? No. Not because I'm bitter. Not because I'm unforgiving. But because some stories end, not with fire, not with fury, but with a slow closing of a door you once left open for too long. I'm not mad at Tara anymore. I don't wish her harm. I hope she finds peace. Maybe she's already started to. But I also hope she learns the difference between being seen and being loved. Because love, real love, doesn't make a joke of you. It holds you up when you feel small. It doesn't ask for likes. It offers light. And I'd spent too long in the shadows of a screen that never showed the whole picture. It's funny how healing doesn't announce itself. There's no trumpet or confetti. No flashing sign that says, you're over it now. It just shows up one morning when you realize you're not replaying the same scene in your head anymore. That you're not flinching when someone says her name. That you're no longer writing invisible letters in your mind, hoping she'll understand everything you never said. For me, it happened on a Tuesday. The shop was still closed. I'd come in early to finish sanding a walnut coffee table. The sun had just risen. The world was still gray-blue and quiet. I stepped outside with my thermos of black coffee and sat on the shop's loading dock. Across the street, a woman walked her dog in silence. A couple of kids rode by on bikes. The wind smelled like dry leaves and sawdust. And for the first time in what felt like years, I exhaled, long, deep, clean. I didn't feel weight. Didn't feel bitterness. Just me. And that was enough. I didn't need to explain my side of the story anymore. Didn't need to prove I was more than the punchline. Because the people who mattered saw me. And the ones who didn't? They never would. That afternoon, I got a message from a small local cafe asking about custom shelving. I walked over to meet the owner. She was kind, maybe in her 30s, and talked about how she wanted the place to feel a little less Pinterest and a little more honest. We laughed, talked with stains. I gave her a rough estimate. On the walk back to the shop, I passed a couple sitting on a bench. She was curled into his side. No phones. No cameras. Just them, sharing a milkshake and laughing about something only they could hear. And I thought, that's what I used to want. Not the milkshake. Not the bench. The intimacy. The unrecorded joy. There's a kind of peace that comes from living life without needing it to be seen. Later that night, Rusty and I grilled on his back porch. It wasn't fancy, just hot dogs, some baked beans, and a six-pack of beer between us. We talked about dumb stuff, high school crushes, old pickup trucks, a fishing trip we never took. Then he got quiet for a second and asked, "You ever think you'll see her again?" I shrugged. "Maybe, but I don't think it matters." He nodded. "You're not angry anymore, huh?" "No, just done." And that was the truth. I didn't feel the need to go back. to fix what broke. Because some things break in a way that teaches you not to glue them together, but to build something new from the pieces. I didn't want revenge. I wanted respect. And the moment I stopped begging for it was the moment I found it in myself. Weeks turned into months. I moved out of Rusty's place and into a small studio above a mechanic shop. The rent was cheap. The floor creaked. The water heater had opinions. But it was mine. I filled it slowly. A table I built myself. Shelves from discarded wood. A chair I'd refinished by hand. Everything had a story. Nothing had a filter. People asked if I missed the spotlight, but I never lived in it. I was just trying to stand beside someone who did. And now? Now I was standing on my own. One morning, I was sipping coffee by the window when a notification pinged on my laptop. It was from Tara. Just a short message. I saw the shelves you built for that bookstore. They're beautiful. I hope you're doing well. I read it once. Then again. Then closed the laptop without replying. Not out of cruelty, but because I had nothing to add. Sometimes closure doesn't come in a conversation. Sometimes it comes in choosing not to reopen the door. I don't remember the exact moment I stopped loving her. Maybe it wasn't a moment at all, just a slow unraveling, like steam slipping from a kettle that's been boiling too long. One day the noise is gone, and all you're left with is silence. But I do remember the exact moment I started loving myself again. It was a quiet morning, just after sunrise. I was sitting on a bench near the edge of the Riverwalk, thermos in hand, jacket zipped up against the Oklahoma chill. Nothing special about it. No cameras. No music playing. No audience. Just breath. Just peace. For so long, I thought love meant endurance. That if I was patient enough, quiet enough, loyal enough, it would be enough. That the jokes didn't matter. That the spotlight she craved was just a phase. That my discomfort was a small price for her happiness. But I've learned something since then. Love without respect isn't love. It's theater. And I spent too long playing the supporting role in a show I didn't even audition for. There's a dangerous lie we're taught, especially men like me, who grow up believing silence is strength, that if you just stay steady, people will come around. That if you're the calm, they'll eventually find peace in you. But some people don't want peace. They want applause. And if you're not clapping, they think you're failing them. Tara wasn't cruel. Not in the way people imagine. She never screamed, never raised a hand, never cheated. But cruelty doesn't always look like fire. Sometimes it's frost. A slow, quiet dismissal of who you are. A shrug at your dignity. A joke that leaves a bruise no one else sees. I still remember her laugh. God, it used to light up a room. But in the end, I realized, when her laughter came at my expense, it didn't just hurt. It erased me. Now, my life is simple. I work 6 days a week at Mr. Harlan's shop. We're building a new set of benches for a church down the road. I take long walks. I keep a notebook with rough sketches of future furniture ideas. I buy vegetables from a farmer's market every Saturday, and I've even learned to cook more than just beans and eggs. There's no one filming me while I chop onions. And I like it that way. Some nights, I sit out on my fire escape, drink tea instead of beer, and listen to the street noises below. People laughing, dogs barking, tires rolling over gravel. And I smile, not because I'm performing, but because I'm still here. Whole, rebuilt, quiet, but no longer invisible. I haven't started dating again. Maybe one day. Maybe not. I'm not rushing toward anything. Because now I know, I'm not someone who needs to be curated. I'm someone who deserves to be seen. Not as a character. Not as content. Not as contrast. As a man. Real. Flawed. Steady. And if this story, my story, means anything to someone else, I hope it's this. You don't need to prove your worth to someone who profits off your pain. You don't need to become smaller so they can shine brighter. You don't need to stay where your silence is mistaken for support. Sometimes, walking away isn't quitting. It's choosing yourself. It's the first real, I love you, you say to the person you've been ignoring the most, yourself. So, no, I never replied to Tara's message. Not because I'm bitter, but because I've already said everything I needed to say. With my feet, with my absence, with the life I'm living now. Because sometimes, the strongest voice in the room is the one that walks out and never looks back.